Welcome to Inspiral Out Loud, where we are exploring ways to create a thriving future for all sentients. Ala Nur is an awareness researcher, holistic counsellor, author, and founder of Nurology with a background in holistic counselling from Germany. Okay, so today we're going to talk about the awakening process and why is that actually important. So, as many of you would know by now, humanity has been pretty much asleep and enslaved for thousands of years. And the last few years have shown us that collective slumber is about to be broken. Although it's a very necessary process to be able to make our way back to freedom and sovereignty and to discover who we really are, it can be a little bit of a tricky process on the way as we learn how to navigate basically a different roadmap and in fact start to create our own. So, Nora, what would the awakening process mean for you? How do you see that as playing out?
Well, the journey back to source. From being on lower levels of density of creation, evolving back to higher densities of creation. That is how I would really name the awakening process that is fully playing out on Earth right now. For Mother Earth as a being and for all that is living upon Earth. It is a necessary step actually in the spiritual evolutionary process of humankind for traveling from the lower densities to the higher densities with all the experiences we are going through and that we're also having as a reflection around us.
Talking about the lower density to higher density, for me, the lower density is perhaps sitting more in the space of victimhood from the point of that the world is as it is regardless of how we think we affect it, whereas moving up, if you like, to a more expansive space is about realising that we are actually co-creators of our existence, and we're becoming more and more aware of that, I think, as we learn to journey inwards in order to make change rather than trying to find the change outside of ourselves.
Yes, and I am very happy actually that we are able at this point of time to talk about these subjects. And I think for a very, very long time, humankind has not been able to reach that kind of awareness for recognizing their own influence on their reality. That is already a very good sign that we are able to move into the right direction upwards on the spiral, rather than downwards on the spiral and in density, which will enormously help in this spiritual evolution of humankind. These insights alone are a sign of the upward spiral, and I'm really happy about talking about this subject.
And well, that sort of takes us into the purification process, because to me, so much of that expansion and inward growth requires a purification on so many different levels. And to start with, we need to purify the mind and shift the brainwashing, because we've been conditioned for so long, literally thousands of years, but more intensely, especially in the last, say, 100 years or so, especially through mass media and so on, and all of that repetitive content, just really programming our minds like computers. So being able to step completely out of that space and out of that brainwashing to be able to see ourselves for who we truly are, see the world for what it actually really is, and to be able to understand our relationship with it and our relationship with each other, so that we can actually start to create from who we really are rather than what we think is available to us. And so part of that purification process also is physical. So
it is. Yeah. It is a journey, as we said. And, well, viewing it holistically, the purification process must take place on all these levels, actually. On the physical realm, the realm of the mind, and even the soul level, whereas I would name it the connection between the heart and the soul for a human. That has to be purified for being a clear and pure channel. So all these areas are important, and it requires the journey back to essence, actually. If you say creating from who we really are, we have to be that first, discover, explore that again. So in order not to fall also into the trap from trying to create from, the ego mind, which is a really limited space for creation, which is possible and which is being done, and we see the results, but not necessarily is playing out for the best of all creation. Since this is one of our main challenges also for universal society, that is the point that actually is good to strive for the inner essence, for being able to create out of this serenity holistically. So therefore, the purification can not be as powerful if it is only being practiced on one level.
Yeah.
That all that has to be taken into account, and what I see is like fanatically defending one part of the purification according to their own point of view. And in fact, actually, me, with my background in holistic medicine, I also started out the purification process from the decalcification of the pineal gland as our really receptor for all incoming higher energies and a translator for this physical life. So it is not a bad idea to start on a physical level with a detoxification and then being led actually further and further into the purification process as a whole. And as also I know, you are writing a book about detoxification, aren't you?
Yeah, so that's been a 1.5 year long project that's come out of the need for people to have different ways to cleanse themselves of certain medical interventions that have been happening and all of the various issues that have happened with that. And again, it does feel like though that you need to be tending to all of the bits, because there's plenty of people that are experiencing severe reactions and sometimes tragically death. But if their mind is still brainwashed, they won't actually see where the issue is because they can't handle the ramifications of that. So some people won't actually tend to the physical unless they can see where the issues are, and that can require some cracking of the nut, so to speak. But also just coming back to before what you were talking about of not coming from the ego mind anymore, like as far as the purification process goes, it feels to me as if when we're trying to create our lives from the left brain, from the ego, from our identity, we can only create based on past experience and what we believe is possible. Whereas when we can let go of that left brain and come more from the heart space, more of the intuitive space, more of the creative space, and more of the creationist point of view rather than the victimhood type view, we can allow in visions and processes and possibilities that we could not actually otherwise see. So that's what I'm finding, and I think we have found, and similarly other people in the community, that when we just relax and forget about how things could possibly play out and just allow the inspiration to come in, that it actually just does bring in its own energy, it brings in its own momentum, and the requirement for deep planning and striving and that type of action can move aside, and we can kind of be propelled and driven out of inspiration rather than having to figure it all out the hard way. So that's what it sort of feels like to me, moving into that higher, more expanded type of space. But part of that purification process too that we've both spoken to a lot in our conversations of late is parasites. And that's physical as well as energetic parasites. And I've been doing a lot of work on that on many levels, but it's been very interesting to note how especially energetic parasites are playing out. And we know that physically a lot of parasites will actually take over the mind and make the body crave what they need rather than what the body needs. And energetically, we're finding the same things. And so I've found a lot of situations where behaviours and relationships and so on have potentially been influenced by those in order to generate the energy that they require, not what is in service to the greater good. Have you had some experience around that physically and energetically?
Yes, it is a matter really of self-perception and the dimensional level where the individual is operating on, and society is also operating on, because there are agreements, let's put it that way, in the mass awareness of the whole beings that are here on Earth right now for making some experiences for the spiritual evolution, actually, that are necessary. And until a certain dimension, duality is necessary for self-recognition. So it is a rather positive attitude to say we are learning from each other and everything is teaching us. What I can say, according to the parasite, it is that on the lower density, the mid-density levels, there are different entities which are described in Holy Scriptures. It is not like a New Age discovery. These entities are living on Earth, really, well, have been living on Earth with humanity for a very long time now. And there are different density levels existent on Earth itself. So you see, the spiral is like the lower the density, the bigger the disconnection from source. The bigger the disconnection from source, the more the entity living in this density needs other energy resources to survive. Humans are very powerful energy resources, and we are electromagnetical beings. We have to remember that also in order for proper reality creations, we are attractors according to the level that we have evolved into. So from that perspective, the most important thing for us to do is to increase our energies for arriving to higher levels where actually we do not serve as batteries any longer for other entities who have disconnected from source and having to use humans for their own survival. And by our own spiritual evolution upwards, the spiral towards source, we will not be prone to them anymore. They will, well, parasites on the inner and outer level will not be able to cling upon us anymore, and we will be just too light for them.
Yeah, exactly.
So even this light is of such power that it can burn them, so they are afraid of it. You will see the lower density entities, well, not wanting necessarily having to deal with the higher light. Therefore, for surviving themselves, they have to keep humanity on a low density level to be able to reach them. Yes, it sounds really like science fiction maybe to some, but that is also from the work that I've been really doing for quite some time now, is what I see with clients, what I see from own experience, and concluding truly that increasing the individual energy is a very good way to purification and also to get rid of inner and outer parasites. Surely we have to remember this path again. It is as lovely as the idea is that we just can create from our hearts, and as true as it is, we have to remember and find this path again. And therefore it can be helpful to be guided through these processes from people that have made the experience before and can lead you to a certain point in a shorter time, which is necessary actually for these processes on Earth right now. It is a little time sensitive because we have kind of a spiritual war for the human soul on Earth. And at this war, we are called upon, and if we want to take it from the positive side, we can say we have to evolve very quickly back into our essential light and remember how living and creating from the heart space is working in order to gain a level in our spiritual evolution that is beyond lower reach.
Yes, and the talking about parasites and raising our energy in order to simply not feed them anymore. There's the similar parallel in the physical actually, and it used to be considered that, well, if you've got parasites, you need to take antiparasitics and all sorts of wormwood or ivermectin or whatever pharmaceuticals or herbals or fasting, whatever it is that you want to do to kill them. But in fact, as more and more of information comes up around terrain theory, there's suggestions there that parasites, that molds, that yeasts like Candida, things like that we're told we need to kill off are actually just simply responding to the terrain, and that if you kill them off, then there's nothing then there to feast on the things that are making your body sick in the first place. So there's suggestions there that, well, if you've got parasites, if you've got even something like worms, rather than killing them, you actually need to rectify the terrain in the body. And similarly, if you've got energetic parasites around you, it's the terrain it's the energetic terrain, if you like, that is still feeding them. So by bringing our spirit selves up and by cleansing our bodies and bringing those up on both levels, we're actually just simply not feeding the beast anymore. So there's so many parallels between that, isn't there?
It is. I mean, we're a reflection. The material realm is a reflection of the immaterial realm that is existent, but we cannot necessarily perceive all the time. So the immaterial parasites are a reflection of this physical plane, and we have, or most of humankind is infected by parasites on the physical level and on the immaterial level. So it is really of necessity to, starting actually with the immaterial level, will be more sustainable and less energy intensive, because we have to actually, at this period of time, learn our energetic tools for being purified on an energetic levels. And then we will be able to get rid of the physical parasites much easier.
Yeah, they're informed by it.
Exactly.
Yeah, absolutely. And so then once we've gone through that purification and we've released ourselves from the stranglehold of parasites, so then what are we aiming for? And, you know, we hear terms such as enlightenment being coined. I like to think of it as the great unrobing or the great unraveling and the journey inwards. I know you speak about the journey upwards. For me, it feels more like the 1,000-petaled lotus opening up, and so more of a travelling inwards in my map. So what are we aiming for? What are you aiming for?
Well, I think a human is in his evolution really happy when it is about creative expression, when he can creatively express himself freely. Yes. In a liberated environment and a loving society, in a nourishing field, yes, where love is persistent and presence can be and source has a place, then actually we will see the fruits of this liberation process that we are actually going through right now. Some more or less, more insightful or less, but we are going through that process, and actually the fruits of these endeavors will be obvious in later centuries in the society, what we are doing right now. But it is clear that we just cannot live on like that and tell ourselves that everything is okay and it is fine. No, a certain effort has to be done in the purification process to actually getting to a point for not living out of survival mode in these conditions that we were put into for really centuries now, decades, long periods of time, into our mode of thriving as an individual human being with a liberated soul and a strong connection to divine source. That is what we're aiming for everybody. Yeah. Every creature really in creation. If you ask me, that would be my answer, because awareness is expansive and awareness is like the net that is holding everything together, and a purified awareness is really mighty and capable of creation. And I believe that is what we are here for. But we have to get out of these cycles that we are put into while serving as batteries. Yeah. And getting into the thriving mode, from survival to thrival. That is the journey, I would say, and the challenge for humanity as a whole right now, as a collective.
Very nice. Yeah, I feel like a lot of it is learning that although we are in these quite dense physicalities, that is not where we're actually capable of creating from. And we are actually creating from something that is so much more expanded. And so that's a realization that by tuning into that more expansive nature and simply bringing in the energy and in fact generating the energy of the kind of existence that we see for ourselves and for the highest good of all sentience, that we're actually manifesting it from the inside out rather than demanding it from the outside in, which is what adhering to that lower density physicality of struggle and needing to get there and get there and get there is all about. And instead just going, no, it's all here. That's all within me. And so from that creationist perspective, the universe just responds to that in kind and says, fine, here it is. Here's your world. And so the striving can just come back to a very simple ease, where our inner well-being is generated from here and is not dependent on the outside, but then oddly the outside responds with a reflection of that. Mm-hmm. So that's what we're unfolding into, right? What are some of the ways that people can find ease in realizing that in themselves, because it's one thing to talk about it, but it's an entirely other kettle of fish to bring it actually into the bodily experience. So,
well, let's make a little exercise around that. And just close your eyes, please. Take a deep breath in and a breath out. Deep breath in and breath out. Breathe in and breathe out. So I want you to arrive here and now, please, at your heart space. And tell yourself what you're in resonance with. I am in resonance with unconditional love. So please go in resonance with unconditional love by intention. I am in resonance with unconditional love here and now. I am in resonance with unconditional love here and now. Breathe in and breathe out. Now feel your highest point of being. Breathe in and breathe out. To your highest point of being from the resonance to unconditional love, please. Go as high and runs as you can from the point of unconditional love here and now. Feel. And now I want to welcome you back to this moment where we are here.
I have to open my eyes?
Yes, you can open your eyes. So that is a very simple exercise one can do all the time to get used to these high levels of being, or if you put it like more inner levels of being. From the density level it is upwards. The lower the density, the denser the condition. So this is a very high level exercise which gets you immediately in resonance to very high spheres.
Can feel it in your body. It's beautiful.
Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah. And inshallah the listeners too, and the followers and watchers.
Beautiful.
So we want to inspire this shift of society towards universal awareness.
Yes. So some of the hows in my world have been mainly, around to the balancing act actually between the physical and the spiritual. So the book that I've been working on has been exploring really a lot of the different physical practices and supplements, herbs, all of those sorts of things that we can do to help our body's natural processes of detoxification and purification, because our body does know what to do with itself when we just get out of the way. And alongside that is the spiral matrix, which is the more energetic work that I've been working towards, which is really focusing on all of the different aspects of society, from history to education to health to food production to our ET familiars, to all of the different aspects, and really clearing them on many different levels and opening up our relationship with them to be able to co-create a more aligned relationship and more aligned reality that is in the highest good. So I've been kind of balancing between those two, and I know that you've been doing a lot of beautiful work as well. So what are some of the offerings that you have available?
Actually, thank you for this question. It's been an interesting journey from the physical realm to the insides of the spiritual realm. And this evolutionary process in this lifetime already, and that it is possible, is really showing like the heightening of awareness or the increase of awareness of humankind that is, getting ready for this shift in awareness. And actually I started with the physical realm also, as I said, with the pineal gland. And the activation of the pineal gland, as many of our capabilities are dormant and have to be remembered and brought into this present material life, which is of no less value. If we are talking of lower and higher densities, it is of equal value. There is not a validation, more or less, but it's a quality of density. And I, as a human being, rather choose to be in higher density levels because it's just more comfortable to be there.
Oh, yes.
much more divine alignment to divine will, and alignment to source, and harmony and love and peace. These things are really prevalent there. It is like a form of paradise, an inner paradise, where we have access to, but which we were really drawn away during our evolutionary processes. And now it's time to, explore this realm again and be there and get there and be there more and more. And the more we are there inwardly, the more we can create it outwardly in this reality. And so the journey of this lifetime really was from going to the physical insights of the activation of the pineal gland, the insights that came therewith, and then the work with neurology right now that is more about, getting back to essence and in alignment to divine source, and the shift in self-perception of the individual as a co-creator of reality. And going into that and exploring that and discovering that, working with that, inspiring towards that, for really being able to move into lighter direction and a more universal awareness for humanity as a whole, and a more unified awareness also, that you and me are not really as separated as it seems. Yes, disconnected as it seems. This perception comes from disconnection from source. And the unity with source brings this height of awareness really to say at one point, there is actually no disconnection. Yes, it is only in this perception and what we were taught and conditioned to think.
Yeah.
In the perception. So this kind of perception, which is of lower density, which has to be of lower density in this reality that was created for us, we now replace it with the reality that is serving actually humanity.
This is our game now.
Yes.
We get to write the rules, we get to create the board game, it's up to us. Time to play. Interestingly, we are gaining our power back. Yes, which is a nightmare for others, what's necessary for ourselves. It's a nightmare for anybody that's gaining energy from us.
Yes, exactly. That's what I mean. But as it is also not, we are aware that there is like a spiritual war for the human soul, but I do not intend actually to go into that war and fight, but I intend to raise and also be like an enlightening element rather than a darkening element. And we are at a point of time where we have to decide, because if we don't take, and sometimes it is about action, sometimes it is about attraction, yes? So it is about balancing out also, as you said, but it's not only about doing, and it's not only about attracting. So this combination and the balance of all this in the higher realms will bring about the society that we actually want to live in.
Yeah.
Yes. And with that said, I even want to include, from this point of view, the entities that are now really disconnected with humanity raising in awareness. Still, also, they may be able to raise higher in awareness by time, because at the end, all of us will be returning to source in one way or the other, and the sooner the better, because, well, that way that it is now, well, there's a lot of suffering, and we reject that. We as humanity want to live in peace, and we want to gain back the paradise inside of us and create it outwardly on earth. Even if earth is intended and perceived as a school of evolution, still then we want to be here on a level that we are capable of in the use of human potential for a society where everyone wants to live in. And from there, the school can still exist, yes, as a sole evolutionary planet, but not with this mess of pain and suffering that we are going through right now.
Time to create something wonderful in service to all sentience. Now, where can people find you and your work?
We are at nurology.org.
And how do you spell neurology?
NUROLOGY .org.
.org. And we will make sure that we have those details in the description of this video. If you'd like to follow any more of my work, the work around creativity, Tjoni.com. Detoxify for health, that's the number 4 if you would like some information on detoxifying your body from medical and radiation and environmental based toxicity. And the Spiral Matrix is coming out soon, which is the energetic work, and for all things community based in -spiral.org, which is where you'll find this video and a whole lot of other stuff. So Ala Nur, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you for having me.
My pleasure.
It was nice.
Until next time, my friends, be well and keep dreaming the good dream. Ciao for now.